Welcome to Hearts Wine from Hearts Distractions, your go-to podcast for navigating the sometimes messy, sometimes beautiful, but always complex world of relationships. Whether you've been in a relationship for just a few months or many years, every couple faces challenges. And in today's world, where distractions often pull us away from our partners, it can be hard to know what's truly important and in maintaining a healthy and fulfilling connection. Of course, I'm your host, Alicia Minor Gaines, an entrepreneur, marriage and family therapist, wife, mother, author, poet, mixologist, say that 10 times fast, and so much more with over 20 plus years of experience in the relationship field. In today's episode, we're diving deep into two incredibly important aspects of any relationship: empathy and validation. These aren't just buzzwords, they're foundational pillars that hold relationships together. When practiced effectively, empathy and validation can help us build deeper emotional intimacy, create stronger communication channels, and navigate conflict in ways that strengthen rather than weaken our bonds. But what happens when we don't feel that empathy from our partner, or when we don't feel validated in our most vulnerable moment? That's where things can get tricky. Today, we're going to explore how to show up for your partner with empathy, hold them accountable without sacrificing your needs, and how to determine if it's time to fight for your relationship or walk away. I know many of you have felt these struggles, whether you're newly dating in a long-term relationship or marriage. It's not always easy to know when to keep pushing forward or when it's time to step away, especially when emotions are running high. Let's get real. It's tough. But the good news is that by understanding the powerful role empathy and validation play in relationships, you can navigate even the toughest situations with more confidence and clarity. And for those of you who are wondering if this episode is for you, whether you're trying to work through issues with a partner, questioning your relationship's direction, or just wanting to deepen the connection with your partner, this episode is for you. Whether you're LGBTQ+ or from any other background, relationship dynamics are universal, and empathy and validation are critical in every kind of connection. Now let's dive into today's topic: empathy and validation. Stay or walk away. I'll guide you through how these tools can help you figure out what to do when you're stuck between staying in a relationship or walking away. You'll hear real stories from couples who've dealt with similar situations, plus research and expert advice to help you apply these concepts to your own life. So in the meantime, how about you grab a glass of wine or your favorite drink and put your feet up, kick back, open up your ears so you can soak in all this good information that's about to come your way. Empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. In relationships, empathy means more than just hearing your partner's words. It's about truly understanding their perspective and experiencing their emotional world. This emotional connection is vital in creating a bond that feels safe, nurturing, and supportive. The power of empathy lies in its ability to create emotional intimacy, but emotional intimacy doesn't just happen overnight. It takes consistent effort and vulnerability. It requires us to step outside of ourselves and consider how our partner is feeling. Even if we don't completely understand their emotions, empathy means embracing those feelings as valid and offering a supportive, non-judgmental space for them to be expressed. For many people, empathy in relationships doesn't come easily, and that's okay. Some of us grew up in households where emotions were suppressed, while others learned to deal with emotions in unhealthy ways. Whether we were taught to shut down or to fix others' problems, true empathy involves letting go of the urge to immediately solve our partner's struggles and instead just be present with them. Empathy requires patience, and sometimes it requires vulnerability. It's not always easy to open ourselves up and truly allow ourselves to feel what our partner is feeling. But when we do, the bond between us deepens. Empathy in relationships helps us connect on a deeper emotional level. And it also makes it easier to forgive and move forward after conflict. How about we take a look at a real life example to kind of bring this home a little bit? So let's say we have Sarah and James, a couple in their 30s who have been together for 3 years. Recently, Sarah has been feeling a lack of support from James, especially as she juggled work and family life. How many of us do that? Instead of confronting James right away, Sarah decided to keep her feelings to herself, believing he should just know that she needed help. But after a particularly stressful week, Sarah finally broke down. Her emotions poured out as she expressed how neglected and unsupported she felt. In response, James could have become defensive. He could have pointed out how much he had been working and how difficult things had been for him, but instead, James paused and took a deep breath. He listened intently to Sarah, letting her express everything without interruption. Rather than rushing to offer solutions or minimize her feelings, he simply acknowledged them. He validated her emotions by saying, "I hear you, and I'm sorry you've been feeling this way." His empathy didn't try to erase her pain, but instead allowed it to be shared and understood. This was a turning point in their relationship, one that helped them build a more profound connection. Empathy allows us to be vulnerable with our partner and encourages them to do the same. When both partners can understand and reflect each other's feelings, the relationship grows stronger. But empathy also involves taking responsibility for our own actions. It means recognizing how our behavior affects others and being willing to make changes for the benefit of the relationship. Now, let's reflect for a moment. How can you practice empathy in your own relationship? Think of a time when your partner was upset. How did you respond? Did you listen actively and validate their feelings, or did you jump into fix-it mode? Next time your partner opens up, try responding with empathy. Instead of rushing to solve their problem, try simply being present with them, validating their emotions and expressing your understanding. Empathy, when practiced consistently, can truly transform the way you connect with your partner. But empathy alone isn't always enough to build a strong, lasting relationship. Again, we also need validation, which we will explore next. Follow me here on this one. While empathy is the emotional foundation of a relationship, validation is the act of acknowledging and affirming your partner's feelings and experiences. It's the verbal and nonverbal expression that says, "I see you," and your emotions are valid. It doesn't mean agreeing with everything your partner says or feels, but it does mean recognizing their experience as real and important. Validation is crucial in relationships because it helps your partner feel understood and respected. When we feel validated, we feel less alone and more connected. It's the emotional glue that keeps us attached to one another during difficult times. Imagine this: you're upset about something, and your partner brushes it off, dismisses it, or belittles it. How does that make you feel? Probably unheard, unimportant, or even frustrated, right? Now imagine the opposite. You're upset, and your partner not only listens but reflects back what they've heard in a way that shows they understand. They say something like, "I can see how this situation would really upset you. Your feelings are completely understandable." That simple validation can transform an emotional reaction into a meaningful conversation where both partners feel respected and cared for. The act of validation doesn't always mean agreeing with your partner. For instance, in a disagreement about household chores, one partner might feel frustrated that the other is always leaving tasks undone. Even if you don't agree with their feelings, acknowledging the frustration by saying, "I understand that this is frustrating for you, and I'm sorry that it's been causing stress," validates their experience. Validation is about emotional support. It doesn't mean fixing the issue immediately, but it does mean offering understanding and support. And when done effectively, validation helps to prevent emotional escalation and unnecessary conflict. I'm going to give y'all a real couple example here. So let's consider Mark and Leo's story. Mark and Leo had been together for 4 years when they started experiencing communication difficulties. Mark would express frustration about their lack of quality time together, but Leo would downplay Mark's concerns. At first, Mark felt dismissed and unimportant, but then after seeking therapy, Leo realized that he had been invalidating Mark's emotions by responding dismissively. Leo's therapist explained that validation wasn't about agreeing with Mark's every feeling. It was about recognizing the emotional truth behind those feelings. Leo began to practice validating Mark's emotions. For example, when Mark expressed concern about their lack of time together, Leo would say, "I understand that you miss spending more time with me, and I agree that we need to prioritize that more." This act of validation was the turning point in their relationship. They found that when they validated each other's feelings, their communication improved and their emotional bond deepened. Hear me on this one, people. But how can we practice validation in our own relationships? Guess what? I got a few tips for y'all. The first one, listen actively, or as us therapists call it, active listening, because you want to make sure you understand what your partner is saying before you respond. Next one, acknowledge their emotions. Even if you don't agree, recognize that their feelings are real, because they're their feelings, not yours. Reflect back what you heard. Yes, literally, repeat their feelings in your own words to show that you understand what you just heard your partner say. That validates that you're listening. Okay. Be patient. Sometimes validation requires giving your partner the space to fully express their emotions without interruption. So give them the space and the room to talk, even if it's for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Let them talk. Let them share what's on their mind. Hear the emotion, hear the feelings. Be patient with the process. In the next segment, we'll explore how to hold your partner accountable with compassion, another vital tool in ensuring your relationship remains healthy and strong. Let's dive into that, shall we? Accountability in relationships often gets a bad rap. Many people associate accountability with punishment, blame, or judgment. But accountability, when practiced with compassion, is actually one of the most loving things you can do for your partner. It's about helping them grow while maintaining the integrity of the relationship. To understand accountability in relationships, let's first talk about what it's not. Accountability is not about pointing fingers, attacking, or keeping score. It's not about holding your partner's mistakes over their head or using their flaws against them. Instead, accountability is about holding your partner to a standard of mutual respect and growth. In healthy relationships, both partners hold each other accountable, not just for their actions, but for their emotional and mental well-being. This means calling each other out when necessary, but doing so in a way that is nurturing and constructive. The goal of accountability is not to shame, but to inspire positive change. Ooh, I like that. I'm going to repeat that for y'all again. I'll be hitting some punchlines sometimes. Again, the goal of accountability is not to shame, but to inspire positive change. Soak that one in, y'all. One of the challenges in practicing accountability is the desire to avoid conflict. In many relationships, we avoid confronting difficult issues because we fear it might cause tension. But when we fail to address issues, they tend to fester and lead to resentment. Effective accountability, however, encourages open and honest communication. For example, let's look at Emma and Alex, for example. I like some of these names I be using. Emma was frustrated because Alex had been, let's say, neglecting their relationship. He wasn't putting in the effort she needed, and as a result, Emma felt abandoned. Instead of ignoring the issue, Emma decided to express her feelings to Alex in a calm and constructive manner. She told him, "I've been feeling disconnected lately, and I need more from you in terms of emotional support." Rather than becoming defensive, Alex listened and acknowledged Emma's feelings. He agreed that he hadn't been as attentive as he should have been. They discussed how Alex could show more support, and Emma expressed what she needed from him moving forward. By holding each other accountable in a compassionate way. Emma and Alex not only resolved their issue, but also deepened their emotional connection. They realized that accountability didn't have to be a punitive measure. It could be a loving act that encouraged mutual growth. The key here, people, is compassion. When holding your partner accountable, it's important to approach the situation with empathy, patience, and understanding. Instead of criticizing, like most people do, try to frame your concerns in a way that fosters growth. This will help your partner feel supported rather than attacked, making it more likely they'll be receptive to the changes you both need. Okay, let's say you're questioning on whether or not you want to stay or not. Well, determining whether to stay or walk away from a relationship is never easy. In fact, it's one of the hardest decisions a person can actually make. The fear of being alone, the desire to hold on to the dream of a perfect partnership, and the hope that things will pretty much get better can all cloud our judgment. But there are times when staying in a relationship is no longer healthy for either partner. So how do we know when it's time to stay and fight for the relationship and when it's time to walk away? The answer is deeply personal, and it depends on the circumstances of each unique relationship. But there are a few signs that can help guide you in making that decision. First, it's important to ask yourself whether you feel emotionally safe in the relationship. If your partner consistently disregards your feelings, disrespects you, or engages in unhealthy behaviors like gaslighting or emotional manipulation, these are significant red flags that may indicate it's time to walk away. Emotional safety is paramount in any relationship. Without it, it's nearly impossible to cultivate empathy, trust, and love. Second, consider whether your partner is willing to work through the challenges with you. If both of you are committed to growth and working through difficult issues, then it's worth trying to repair the relationship. However, if one or both partners are unwilling to change, compromise, or communicate effectively, it may be time to walk away. Let's take, for example, I'm going to call this couple Anna and Peter. Let's say they struggled with infidelity. After Peter's affair, Anna was heartbroken. She didn't know whether she could ever trust him again. They went through months of therapy, and Peter worked hard to rebuild the trust he had broken. But for Anna, the emotional toll of the affair was too much. She felt that the relationship had crossed a line that she couldn't come back from. Eventually, after many painful conversations, Anna decided that the best thing for her mental and emotional well-being was to walk away. While this decision was incredibly painful, it was ultimately the right one for her. Anna recognized that no matter how much she loved Peter, she needed to prioritize her own health and happiness. Sometimes walking away is the most self-loving choice you can make. However, not every relationship with challenges requires ending things. If both partners are committed to healing and changing, then there may be a path forward. What's important is that both partners are equally invested in the process of change. Without that commitment, it's nearly impossible to build a sustainable future together. Understanding the impact of generational patterns on relationships is key to recognizing how our behaviors and emotional responses are often shaped by the environments we grew up in. Whether we like it or not, our family dynamics, how we were raised, the values instilled in us, and the behaviors modeled to us play a significant role in shaping how we approach love, conflict, intimacy, and communication in our relationships. Generational patterns can either be empowering or harmful, depending on the family environment. For instance, if you grew up in a home where emotional expression was celebrated and healthy communication was practiced, it's likely that you'll carry these practices into your adult relationships. On the other hand, if your family dynamic involves emotional suppression, unresolved conflict, or unhealthy coping mechanisms, these patterns can affect how you interact with your partner. A key part of breaking generational patterns is self-awareness. When you can recognize how your past experience influenced your present behavior, you can make more informed choices about how to engage in your relationship. For example, if you grew up in a household where your parents never fought openly, but instead suppressed emotions, you might find yourself avoiding conflict in your relationships. Recognizing this behavior can help you understand why you might avoid difficult conversations with your partner, and you can then work toward developing healthier communication strategies. The relationship between family of origin and relationship dynamics cannot be overstated. Often we repeat patterns unconsciously, especially when it comes to how we deal with conflict. Think about it. If you witnessed a pattern where one partner was constantly dismissive of the other's feelings or needs, you might unknowingly adopt a similar approach in your own relationship. Perhaps you tend to shut down or avoid addressing emotional concerns because that was modeled for you as a way to avoid confrontation. However, when you realize that this pattern is not only unhelpful but also potentially harmful, you can choose to break it. Now let's consider the story of Laura and Tasha. Laura came from a family where emotions were rarely spoken about openly. Conversations were kept light and issues were swept under the rug, with the expectation that everything could just work itself out. Laura never learned how to navigate difficult emotions or express her vulnerability, and as a result, she struggled to communicate her needs in her relationship with Tasha. On the other hand, Tasha grew up in a family where open and honest communication was encouraged, and emotional expression was considered a sign of strength. Tasha was able to express her feelings easily, but Laura found it uncomfortable and awkward. For a long time, this dynamic created tension between them. Laura would bottle up her feelings, thinking that Tasha should just know what she needed, while Tasha grew frustrated with Laura's inability to open up. At one point, this led to a serious breakdown in their relationship, with both partners feeling misunderstood and unsupported. However, through therapy, they realized that much of their struggle stemmed from generational patterns they hadn't addressed. Laura had never learned how to express herself emotionally, while Tasha hadn't fully understood the impact of her own upbringing. The breakthrough came when Laura and Tasha consciously worked to unlearn these behaviors. Laura made an effort to open up about her emotions, even when it was uncomfortable. Tasha, on the other hand, learned to be more patient and compassionate when Laura struggled to communicate. Over time, they were able to integrate new ways of communicating and handling conflict, ways that honored both their past while creating healthier patterns for their future. This story shows how crucial it is to recognize family dynamics and how they shape our present relationships. By doing so, we can choose to heal from past wounds and break free from cycles that no longer serve us. Here are a few key steps for breaking generational patterns in your relationship. Identify the patterns. Reflect on your upbringing and how your family handled conflict, love, and communication. What behaviors do you notice in your relationship that mirror your parents' or caregivers' behaviors? Something to think about, right? Acknowledge the impact. Understand how these patterns have affected your emotional well-being and your ability to connect with your partner. Create new patterns. Work together with your partner to create healthier communication strategies. This might involve open conversations about how each of you was raised and the impact it has on your current relationship. And last but not least, seek therapy or relationship counseling if needed. Sometimes unlearning old patterns require outside help. A therapist or counselor can provide guidance and strategies for creating healthier relationship dynamics. By breaking generational patterns, you not only heal yourself, but also lay the groundwork for better, healthier, more fulfilling relationships in the future. I bet y'all want some more real life stories, right? Because real life stories are some of the most powerful ways to demonstrate the impact of empathy, validation, and generational patterns on relationships. Couples who face difficult moments often have the most profound insights to share because they've lived through the challenges and come out stronger on the other side. In this segment, or this part of the segment, I should say, We're going to share two contrasting stories of couples who face struggles related to empathy and validation. And yes, real couples, but not their real names. One couple overcame these challenges through hard work and empathy, while the other couple struggled because these crucial components were missing. First, let's take a look at the couple we're going to call Melissa and Ryan, a couple who had been married for 5 years. In the beginning, their relationship was filled with passion and excitement. But as time went on, of course, Ryan began to withdraw emotionally. Melissa, feeling unsupported, became frustrated and began to lash out. You know, the yelling, the screaming, the cursing, and carrying on. That type. She wanted Ryan to open up about his emotions, but instead of listening with empathy, she became defensive. She felt that Ryan's emotional distance was a rejection of her love and efforts. At first, Melissa tried to get Ryan to talk by demanding that he open up. She would say things like, "Why won't you just talk to me? What's your problem?" Unfortunately, this approach only made things worse. Ryan, who struggled with expressing his emotions, began to shut down even more. Melissa felt more isolated, and Ryan felt criticized. This pattern continued for months until they reached a breaking point. It wasn't until they started attending couples therapy that they learned how empathy and validation could have saved their relationship. The therapist taught them how to listen actively and understand each other's emotions without judgment. Melissa learned how to validate Ryan's feelings by acknowledging that it was okay for him to need time to process emotions. Ryan, on the other hand, learned how to express himself without feeling threatened by Melissa's need for communication. Through therapy, they discovered that Ryan's withdrawal wasn't a sign of disinterest or rejection, but a learned coping mechanism from his childhood. By practicing empathy and validating each other's feelings, Melissa and Ryan rebuilt their emotional connection. They began to understand that love isn't always about having the answers or solving problems. It's about being present for each other's emotional experience, no matter how difficult. Now let's take another couple. We're going to call them Sarah and Mark. Sarah and Mark had been dating for 2 years. Unlike Melissa and Ryan, Sarah and Mark struggled with the opposite issue. They didn't validate each other's feelings at all. In fact, every time Sarah would express frustration or sadness, Mark would brush it off with comments like, "You're overreacting," or "It's not that big of a deal." Sarah felt that Mark didn't take her seriously, and Mark felt overwhelmed by Sarah's emotions. This dynamic created tension and led to numerous arguments. Sarah tried to communicate her emotions in a more direct way, but Mark's dismissiveness only made her feel more isolated. It wasn't until Sarah finally got fed up and told Mark that she couldn't continue in the relationship if he didn't start validating her feelings that things began to change. Mark was initially defensive, but after some reflection, he realized that he had been dismissing Sarah's emotions due to his own upbringing. His parents had often told him to toughen up, let it go, get over it, and not show vulnerability, which had created a deep-seated fear of emotional expression. After seeking individual therapy, Mark began working on his own emotional awareness, learning that acknowledging and validating Sarah's feelings didn't diminish his own worth. Sarah too learned to communicate more effectively through relationship coaching by expressing her emotions without demanding validation immediately. Through lots of hard work, Sarah and Mark learned how to validate each other's emotions, even when they didn't fully understand or agree with them. Their relationship began to flourish as they realized that empathy and validation were the cornerstones of their emotional intimacy. These two stories highlight the power of empathy and validation and how these crucial aspects can either make or break a relationship. Whether you're facing communication struggles or dealing with emotional distance, Practicing empathy and validating your partner's emotions can transform your relationship. So to bring this home, I know we've covered a lot of ground today, diving deep into the significance of empathy and validation in relationships. These two elements are the foundation of any healthy relationship, as they create a space where both partners feel heard, understood, listened to, and supported. But how can you apply these lessons from today's episode to your own relationship? Let's break it down into actionable steps. Practice active listening. The next time your partner is speaking to you about something that's bothering them, resist the urge to interrupt or offer solutions immediately. Instead, focus on understanding their emotions. Reflect back what you heard. It sounds like you're feeling frustrated because. This simple step shows that you're truly listening and that their feelings matter to you. Validate your partner's emotions. Even if you don't fully agree with your partner's perspective, validate their emotions by acknowledging their experience. For example, instead of saying, "That's not a big deal," or "Get over it," say, "I can see why that would be upsetting for you." This small act can go a long way in helping your partner feel understood. Hold each other accountable with compassion. This one's my favorite. Accountability doesn't have to be about blame. It's about helping your partner grow. When holding your partner accountable, do so with kindness and understanding. Approach the conversation as a team, focusing on the behavior and its impact, rather than attacking your partner's character. Recognize and break generational patterns. The therapist's favorite, take a moment to reflect on how your upbringing has influenced your current relationship dynamics. Are there patterns from your family that are affecting how you communicate or handle conflict? By recognizing these patterns, you can begin to unlearn them and create healthier dynamics in your own relationship. Know when to walk away. Sometimes, despite all the efforts, a relationship may not be healthy for either person. If emotional safety is compromised, or if both partners are unwilling to work through their issues, it might be time to consider moving on. Remember that walking away isn't a failure. It's a step toward prioritizing your emotional well-being. By integrating these practices into your relationship, you can foster a deeper connection built on empathy, validation, and mutual respect. Relationships are challenging, but with the right tools and a commitment to each other's growth, they can also be incredibly rewarding. Thank you for joining me on this journey through empathy and validation today. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Hearts Wine from Heart's Distractions, especially for exclusive episodes and content. Visit www.aliciasdistractions.com for more resources, and follow us on social media on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook for the latest updates. Until next time, take care and remember to practice empathy, validate your partner, and hold each other accountable with love and compassion with a glass of wine in your hand. Cheers!